Lights, camera, action.
And the winner is...
Welcome back to the Oscar Reel Movie Podcast. Your hosts, Haley and Matt Schmidt. We've got a great schedule today. A few new trailers to talk about in the trailer park. We'll see. I don't know if we've got any movie news today. I don't have anything, but maybe Matt, maybe you have something you want to bring up. The current buzz movie for the week, we will be talking about the Netflix original movie Marriage Story. And then, flashing back 20 years, we will go to the 1999 Best Picture winner, American Beauty. Today is going to be our Best Picture winner. We will also do some rankings for all the Best Picture winners we've watched and discussed so far. And I think we've got a little bit of a quiz. You have a quiz ready for me, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who was it that sent this?
Yeah, my parents, my mom and dad.
Yeah, sent a clipping of a newspaper, but it's a quiz about Christmas Vacation, which around our Thanksgiving episode we brought up that your family watches that every Thanksgiving, I guess.
Yeah.
Getting ready for Christmas.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll read off that quiz and see how much. Some of I looked at them, because obviously you haven't looked at them yet. I've looked at them. Some of these I think are kind of easy, but some of them are a little tricky, so we'll see how many you get right.
That's good. Yeah, we both have our own areas of expertise when it comes to movie knowledge, and for me, I think Christmas Vacation I can do pretty good at, so we'll see how that goes. Perfect. So, what's new in the Schmidt household?
Just saw Star Wars last week, so we'll talk about that in a future episode. Just getting ready for the Christmas season, holidays. Some family coming to visit us. We're going to do a little traveling. But, yeah, other than that, just trying to figure out what movies we want to see and when. Trying to figure out when 1917 is going to be in theaters around here, because I thought it was going to be around Christmas, but I can't find any theaters right now that have it. Got a friend who gets to see a screener of it, or already did by the time this comes out, so definitely not jealous of that. But Uncut Gems comes out, which I'm very excited to see. But yeah, we just got to figure out when.
When it's coming to Madison?
No, I think what day we want to go. Like, I think it's here pretty much starting Wednesday.
I know Cats hit theaters last weekend. That has not gone well.
No, I don't want to see that movie.
We don't have to worry about fitting that one in.
No.
But yeah, so I hope everyone's having a great holiday season. Let's get into the trailers for this week.
First up is the movie Just Mercy, starring Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx, with Brie Larson as well. I think you on your list here, you have O'Shea Jackson. Ice Cube's son is in it. I think I saw him in the second trailer. He looks like he's a fellow prison mate of Jamie Foxx's. But yeah, this was a movie. We saw a trailer for the first time a while ago, but it's one that it really isn't getting publicized too much. Like, I'm not seeing a lot of previews for it on just regular TV or anything like that, so I feel bad, but I kept forgetting about it. But I saw that Jamie Foxx got a SAG nomination for his role in this movie. That's right,
he did. I remember seeing that now.
Maybe because I didn't really know what to think of it. It looks like a nice like courtroom drama type story, but I didn't know how good it would actually be. And then I saw Jamie Foxx got that SAG nomination for it, and I was like, oh, all right. Like, this is why I like the award nominations and winners, because they can bring attention to some roles in movies that you might not think to go see. So now this is a movie that I would definitely want to go see. I mean, it's got star power to it, but if Jamie Foxx is getting some accolades for his role, that only makes it more enticing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, something we always like doing in this podcast is kind of making people aware of movies they may not have heard of, or maybe, like you said, this one doesn't seem to be getting a whole lot of publicity, but it sounds like it's a great story. It's based on the true story of a civil rights defense attorney, Brian Stevenson, and that's Michael B. Jordan's character. And kind of with his experience working civil rights cases, but it seems like the focus of this is with Jamie Foxx's character, Walter McMillian, who is a death row inmate. And then Brie Larson appears to be like one of his legal counterparts. So, yeah, this one's coming out in January, which... I think this will be... I hope it's a good story. It sounds like it would be. I was kind of looking at Brian Stevenson's, real-life accolades, and I feel bad that I've never heard of him before, because it sounds like he has done a lot of good in the world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, January release date, but they're qualifying it for, like, this year's... Because they have to submit their movie by festivals by a certain time in order for it to count towards the 2019 awards, which apparently it is doing because he's nominated for a SAG award this year. So it's getting released a little later than I would have thought.
And I think on the IMDb page, I think it said like hits theaters December 25th, like select theaters, but full like nationwide release in January. Okay. So maybe part of that release date there is kind of what helps qualify them.
That makes more, because traditionally, January release dates aren't normally a good sign, but if this is actually coming out in December and then worldwide or full release in January, that makes a little more sense. But I think Michael B. Jordan is a great actor that doesn't get the credit he deserves all the time. A lot of people thought he should have gotten more award buzz or nominations for the first Creed when that came out, because Sylvester Stallone obviously got an Oscar nomination, and people were yelling that Michael B. Jordan probably should have got one that year as well. And then he, was in Black Panther, which he was fantastic in as well. And he hasn't really done a whole lot since then that I can think of, so... hopefully this will be a nice start for him to getting some more dramatic roles or, better roles. And O'Shea Jackson, I've only seen him in the one thing, which was Straight Outta Compton, where he played his dad. But I know he's been in a couple things since then, so it's kind of nice to see him popping up in more and more movies. And then, obviously Jamie Foxx, who's won an Oscar. He's had so many iconic roles. He's always great in whatever role he's in. So I have the absolute faith that he's great in this movie and is well deserving of that any nomination he gets. Yeah, and Brie Larson's an Academy Award winning actress as well. So like you said, a lot of star power. All of them have been in Best Picture nominated films. So exciting stuff. Mm-hmm. Next, we have The Gentleman, which was written and directed by Guy Ritchie. This trailer, it just seems like, boom, that stereotypical Guy Ritchie film. Yeah, when he was at his best, I think it was early 2000s. Maybe that you can put the late 90s in there only because Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels came out in 1999, but... a lot of his successful movies are those, they take place in London or England, and there's rivaling gangsters or some kind of gangster element to the story, and there's usually a fair amount of comedy in them too. So the trailer, this makes it seem like it's right up that alley, which I hope it means that this is going to be a really good movie, because some of his early work I love. I mean, Snatch is one of my favorite movies, and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is... those two are just... it's hard for me to say which one I like more. I probably do like Snatch more, but Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is really good. Rock and Rolla was really good. And that Sherlock Holmes is good too, but then he started doing like King Arthur, which wasn't received that well. He did do Aladdin, which I forgot about until I looked up his
Like-
filmography.
Like the Disney remake?
Yeah,
Aladdin?
with Will Smith. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, which I
Oh,
completely...
I had no idea.
Yeah, I completely forgot that he did that. And I know that got well received, but that isn't a typical Guy Ritchie movie.
No. I was gonna say the thing that always jumps at me, like, it's always like an electric, like, character-driven cast with a lot of commotion, and I think this looks like another just like great, exciting kind of movie.
Yeah, and I was happy that Charlie Hunnam was in King Arthur because this is before the movie came out, and I'm like, okay, a Guy Ritchie movie, it's going to be good, and I like Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy, and I wish he would get more acting roles. So I was excited that he was going to be in that movie, and then it stunk. So then it's like, oh, is this going to be tough for Charlie Hunnam to get more and more roles? But he's in this, and it looks like it. I don't. From just the trailer, it looks like it'll be good. It's a great cast: Matthew McConaughey, as we mentioned, Charlie Hunnam, Hugh Grant, who I didn't really recognize at first for whatever reason in this trailer.
Yeah.
Jeremy Strong,
Colin Farrell's in this. Henry Golding. A lot of big names.
Yeah, there's a lot of big names. So I think I'm hopeful that it'll be good, but some of Guy Ritchie's recent movies has made me worry a little bit about it. But I'll hope that this will be good. I'm not gonna go see it in theaters right away. I'll probably wait and see what some of the reviews say, and then if they're really good, then I'll maybe catch this one in theaters.
Yeah. And this one is set for a nationwide January release as well, January 24th.
Which is what worries me about it, but hopefully it's just wrong. Sometimes you get a good...
That
just
doesn't always mean they're bad.
Not always. Usually it's kind of the studio just putting in January just because they don't think it's good, but that doesn't always mean it's going to be bad, so I'm hoping this will be an exception.
Yeah. Third trailer we have this week is the new Christopher Nolan film, Tenet, which there have been some teasers that came out a little while ago that I'm glad that a full-length trailer finally dropped, because I think we get, I know it's not super clear of what the storyline is going to be, but I think we get a better picture of that now.
Yeah, and it's always like that with Christopher Nolan. He really knows how to market a movie. They're almost events with him, and I just say that because with his movies, he'll release a 30-second teaser, like, I feel like 2 years before the movie even gets released.
Yeah.
Where you have no idea what's going on. It doesn't really answer anything, and then it just leaves you wanting more. And then you'll get, the full-length trailer later on. But like you said, it's never 100% clear what's actually happening. I just think back to, even Dark Knight Rises, the third one, the initial teaser was just the bat logo going up through the buildings into the sky, or Inception was just the buildings folding over on top of itself. Interstellar, the initial teaser was just Matthew McConaughey driving in his truck crying, and then a rocket ship goes shooting off into space. You never get it's always just like what is happening. And so yeah, I'm very excited for this. His movies are always, I can't think of a bad movie he's made. I'm sure we're sitting here going, what the hell's going to happen in this movie, but by the time we see it, I'm sure it'll all make sense in the movie, because it always does.
Yeah. I looked at kind of the description of it on IMDb, and it said, the project is described as an action epic revolving around international espionage, time travel, and evolution. So, honestly, I feel like you could put anything in that. Yeah,
it does. It looks, based on the trailer, it seems like John David Washington, right? Is that his name?
Yep.
In that order? Okay. Yep. He is, wrapped up in some kind of covert espionage group or bureau or whatever you want to call it, because it seems like he fakes his own death at one point, or in the trailer they say, oh, you're dead, welcome to the afterlife. So must be kind of a Men in Black thing where you got to erase your history to become part of this group. And then you can definitely tell time travel is somehow involved, because there's a lot of shots where they're in reverse. Like some ships, you can tell the waves are going in reverse, the ships are moving backwards, or a car accident happens, and then the car goes in reverse, and it's back to normal, kind of like pre-crash. So it seems like someone might have weaponized time travel in some way for this movie. I could be wrong because that's just a guess at this time, and we'll find out.
Yeah, and there's someone in the trailer says, yeah, we're trying to prevent World War III. So who knows what that could entail. So, and yeah, like you said, it stars John David Washington. He was in Black Klansman, which came out last year. Robert Pattinson's in the trailer a lot, so it seems like those two may be kind of like partnered up or something. A staple in all of Christopher Nolan's movies. We also have Michael Caine.
Yeah, he's in almost all of them. I'm sure he wasn't in one or two, but he's in almost all.
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan movies.
Yeah, exactly. This one is scheduled for July 17th release date. So, of course, we're going to put this on our list because apparently what we do on July 17th is we see a Christopher Nolan film.
Yep, went and saw The Dark Knight. It's opening night.
For our very first date. That was our first official date. We went and saw The Dark Knight at midnight.
And then we went and saw Inception.
Which was like
years
two
later.
2 years later, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, 2 years later.
Yep. So yeah, we just go see Christopher Nolan movies. He seems to just release them on that date a lot, so we just happen to we go see them all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'll put this one on my list to go see. Perfect. That wraps up this week's Trailer Park. Do we have any movie news this week?
I heard that they're going to be remaking The Dirty Dozen. Did you ever see that movie?
I did, but it's been a very long time since I've seen that.
It was one of my dad's favorite movies. Maybe it still is one of his favorite movies. But yeah, it's an all-star kind of Ocean's 11 ensemble cast at the time. And then it's kind of funny actually because the new director they have for the remake, which I guess will be a modern take on it, it won't take place in World War II like the original one did, is going to be David Ayer, who directed Suicide Squad, among other things. He's made good movies too, but he directed Suicide Squad, which is very similar to the plot of Dirty Dozen, because Suicide Squad is villains who are in prison, and they form this team to go do something good. And the Dirty Dozen is a bunch of prisoners of war, not with the enemy, but on their own side. So, like, the Allied troops have these people who they aren't putting in the field because they're a liability, and they put them on one team to go do a giant task where they can be considered kind of a liability, where it's, if they fail, it's not that big a deal because we didn't lose our good soldiers. So, kind of interesting that you bring on the director of a failed version of The Dirty Dozen to do a remake of The Dirty Dozen. I know that Suicide Squad wasn't completely David Ayer's fault, but still kind of an interesting move on the studio's part to do that.
Anything else?
I saw Onward came out with a new trailer that I know I posted on social media, and one of our first critiques of Onward was it doesn't exactly feel like a home run. It didn't feel exactly Pixar.
Yeah, exactly.
But this new trailer felt 100%. I thought at least felt 100% like a Pixar movie. It had more emotional music in the background. They pushed the dad theme a little bit more, as in Tom Holland's character has never met his dad, so they're really going on this quest to meet him for the first time. They introduce, or not introduce, but they show some of the other characters a little bit more. So this second trailer, or newest trailer, felt a lot more Pixar-y, home run to me. So I'm more hopeful and excited for this movie.
Yeah, and I think they explained too that, in a world with all these magical creatures like trolls and gnomes and unicorns and stuff, there's no actual magic in the world. I didn't pick up on that earlier.
Oh, really?
So,
yeah, they might have briefly touched on it, but yeah, people forgot how to use magic in this world because it was just more convenient to do all this other stuff instead.
Yep, exactly. Should we move on to Marriage Story for this week's current review?
Yeah, that sounds good. And just so the listeners know, in case the transition sounds a little weird, we pre-recorded our Marriage Story review because we watched it on Netflix maybe over a week ago. and we wanted to talk about it fairly quickly after seeing it, so it was kind of fresh in our heads. So yeah, you're about to listen to our Marriage Story review.
Okay, let's get into this week's current film. We are talking about the Netflix original Marriage Story.
Mm-hmm.
This was written, directed, produced by Noah Baumbach. It stars Adam Driver as Charlie, and also Scarlett Johansson as his wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, Nicole. We also have Laura Dern, Ray Liotta, Alan Alda. They kind of play the different divorce attorneys in this.
Mm-hmm.
Those are kind of the main players. I mean, really, it's about Charlie and Nicole and the story of their divorce, more or less. And that's not necessarily a spoiler. I think that's pretty clear in the trailers or anything that any press that you've seen for this.
We're going to treat this one a little different. We're not going to really have a non-spoilers and spoilers section. I think we're just going to talk about the movie, and we'll just say spoiler alert right now. But I don't think this movie has too many spoilers. Like, you know what it's about. It's about two people going through a divorce. Like, they don't get back together in the end, but I think that's very clear from the beginning and from the trailers that they're not going to get back together.
Yeah, there really aren't any big surprises or secrets or twists. It's really just a story about a couple splitting up.
Yeah, it's solely the performances of the actors that are in it. That's what the draw is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's definitely been the biggest buzz, is that, oh my gosh, Scarlett Johansson, Adam Driver, they are fantastic in this. Laura Dern, like, they're all getting nominated.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. What did you think of the movie?
It wasn't what I expected, and it wasn't as good as I expected, I guess. I think I was anticipating, a more kind of sad, dramatic, like, oh my God, we're breaking up. And I thought there'd be a little more nostalgia of, oh my gosh, look at how amazing our life used to be and our relationship used to be. And, really it's all focused on their divorce. And so I think it was a little bit different than I was expecting. Like, I thought this would be like a sob story and I'd be crying through the whole thing. And to be honest, the acting didn't impress me as much as I think other people seem to be responding.
Yeah, like I thought it was good, but I didn't love it.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
I didn't love it as much as other people are raving about it. And I didn't love Scarlett Johansson's performance in it as much as other people are saying too. Like, I think Adam Driver was better in it than her.
I agree.
But even he had moments too where it was like not as good as I thought it was going to be. But I thought, I don't know, there were some scenes where I just didn't think that their acting was blow me away good as I was expecting it was going to be.
Yeah. I feel like a good acting performance is when you only see the character, like you don't realize that it's the actor playing someone, like you are so involved in the character. And I feel like there's, something compelling about them that really draws you in. And I thought Adam Driver did a better job at that. And honestly, I think my favorite performance was probably from Merritt Weaver, and she plays Nicole's sister.
Oh, she was funny.
She was in like one scene, two scenes,
yeah.
But honestly, like what she gave me was better than some of the other scenes with the two main characters.
Mm-hmm. And
maybe that's a little dramatic, but
part of it too, I think Adam Driver's in this movie more than Scarlett Johansson, at least a little bit. Like, he's kind of the point of view that you're following most of this movie from, I feel like. I could be wrong on that, but that's how I felt like when I was watching it, at least. And I don't know. I worry about, like, I was kind of rooting for him throughout this movie for the most part. And I didn't know whether I was supposed to be feeling that way or not. Because Scarlett Johansson, she was treated badly by him in their marriage, so that's why she was leaving. But she was kind of, like, she wasn't, I don't know. I didn't like the way she acted for, like, the first, and when I say acted, I don't mean, like, her acting skills. I mean how her
You didn't like how her character behaved.
Yeah, throughout the first chunk of this movie, because they were both the ones who were like, oh, we don't want lawyers involved. And then all of a sudden she gets a lawyer involved in Laura Dern. And I can't really think of a good reason as to why she got a lawyer.
No, I mean...
It's just all of a sudden she did. She had a coworker who was like, you should get a lawyer, and then she did, and
I literally asked you that question about halfway through the movie. I'm like, wait, why did she get a lawyer again? Yeah. And yeah, it was literally... so, like, the couple lives in New York, and Nicole, Scarlett Johansson's character, she moves to LA as, like, you know, in part of their separation. She's like, I'm going to start acting and working in LA. And so, yeah, she's on this new, like, TV pilot, and one of the producers or someone is like, oh, I have the best divorce attorney. And she's like, yeah, we're not going to do that. And she's like, oh, no, this one's a lifesaver. And so then you just see her, yeah, she's sitting on the couch with Laura Dern's character. The attorney's name is Nora. That's her character name, Nora. And all of a sudden, just like, boom, yep, done. Here's our lawyer.
Yeah,
and here's my lawyer. Sorry.
And I didn't. That's fine. And I didn't love that scene either when they first meet. I love how it was shot, because at one point, Nicole gets up from the couch, walks into the bathroom, grabs something to eat, sits down, and then gets up and sits down on the couch again. That was all in like one shot.
Yeah, it's like this long monologue.
Yeah, but I liked how it was shot. I didn't like her speech. It felt too over the top for me. It didn't seem natural. Like, I can't think of a good way to explain it, which is partially on me. I have these feelings about it, and then I can't explain why I feel them. But I just know I didn't love her speech. It didn't seem like things people would naturally say. It was funny because I listened to an interview that Scarlett Johansson had done, and apparently they weren't allowed to ad-lib in this at all. Noah was you have to say every word that's on the script. So maybe this could have used a little ad-libbing or a little freedom to kind of...
Yeah, because it felt very... Like, it felt forced. It felt a little stiff.
Yeah, so I didn't love that where they first met. And then from that point on, you have Charlie, who is living in New York because that's where he's in charge of a theater or a play.
Theater company.
He has
his own theater company.
And then Scarlett Johansson moved out to LA, but didn't really move out. She just told Charlie that she wanted to spend time out in LA because that's where her family was, and brought their son Henry with her. And then it all of a sudden turns into, Nora is calling Charlie and saying, you're past your due date of filing those divorce papers, and if you don't do it by like 5 p.m. in 2 days, then we're going to take full custody of Henry and you can never see him again. And Charlie's like, what? This is not what we discussed or agreed on.
Yeah, this wasn't how we wanted to handle this.
Yeah, and Nora's like, oh, well, I just talked to Nicole. She knows everything that I'm saying to you. So it's like, all of a sudden, Charlie is, just in this shitty situation of having to settle on lawyers because Nicole went to a ton of lawyers in the LA area, and just because she met with them, now they can't represent Charlie at all. So I don't know. I didn't love how Nicole was acting. And I'll be honest, like, I worry about this too, and I wanted to bring it up with you. I worry some of this is just, I'm obviously a male, and that's what Charlie is, and it's like, am I just blindly seeing things from his point of view? Am I not seeing something from the other point of view? Like, I worry about that, so I don't know. Like, am I in the wrong here by not liking how Nicole was treating Charlie through the first part of this movie?
No, I mean, that's the sense I got too. I mean, I will say, like, I feel like, well, like, I don't necessarily agree with how Nicole handled everything, at least when she's, like, explaining certain things. I see her point of view, and then when Charlie's talking about his side, it's like, I can see his point of view. So I feel like when Nicole first gets Nora hired as her attorney, and they kind of go back, like, those first few scenes back and forth, I can see, like, okay, like, Nicole points out all of Charlie's issues from the relationship, and Charlie points out, like, the issues with Nicole in the relationship. I'm like, okay, I can see her side, I can see his side. But yeah, I didn't like the way that Nicole handled things.
Yeah, and I think the point is you're supposed to agree and disagree with both of them.
Yeah, sure.
But for me, I didn't sympathize with Nicole until that scene where they're all sitting in that courtroom, and Charlie had Alan Alda as his lawyer, but now he's switched to Ray Liotta. So it's Ray Liotta, who's Jay is his character name. So it's Jay, Charlie, Nicole, and Nora in the courtroom. And Jay and Nora just start arguing at each other, like, over the lives of Charlie and Nicole, because they're
getting nasty.
Yeah,
like they're just bringing up so many terrible things, taken totally out of context.
Yeah, like they're both bringing up little things that we had seen throughout the movie that were fairly innocent at the time, but they're spinning them into negative things. That's really the first time I felt sympathy towards Nicole, because at that point, it's like, this is just ridiculous on what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
But I know one of the big scenes in this movie is kind of towards the end. Maybe there's a half hour left in the movie when this happens. But Charlie gets a house or townhome out in L.A. because, one of the things going on this, because Nicole had basically taken their son out to L.A., he has to establish as much of a life in LA as possible, because everything's going to be done through LA courts. But it
helps with, like, like the custody arrangement and stuff.
Well,
too.
Yeah, but, like, that's the thing though. Like, they're a New York family, but it has to be tried in LA because she took their son out there and now established.
And that's where they're living.
Yeah, but her intention initially was to go back to New York, but now she's just kind of staying in LA and saying, you got to come out to me.
See, I didn't think her intention was ever to go back to New York.
Maybe that wasn't part. Charlie clearly thought it was, and maybe that's a problem with him, because I should say, like, he's not a complete innocent person in this whole thing. He's egotistical, and they got divorced because he was too controlling. But I can't remember if they explicitly say or not, but he says it multiple times that her intention was to come back to New York at some point.
Yeah, I guess I never, like, recall her stating that or that being part of the plan, because she was filming a TV show out in LA, so it's like, when is she coming back? When it was done? I don't know. Yeah. I just don't remember that ever being a thing.
Maybe it was, because that is a flaw of Charlie's, like, a lot of what his ideas are what the decision is. Like, that's one of his issues and why he isn't a complete saint in this movie. So maybe that's just a thought he had and he assumed that it was fact.
And honestly, maybe that's part of the reason why I can see some more of Nicole's side, is because, in my mind, my understanding is that, like, she was moving to LA.
Mm-hmm.
And not planning on going back to New York.
Yeah, well, I guess between us and the movie, there's a disconnect there, because throughout the movie, Charlie is saying, no, Nicole was gonna come back to New York. But anyways, one of the big scenes is, so he does get a townhome in LA because he has to establish a life in LA to have a shot at getting custody of Henry. And Nicole comes to see him, I can't remember what for, and they get in a huge argument, and this is like a 5-minute argument where they just start screaming at each other, and Charlie at one point says, I wish you were dead. He says the worst thing you can say to a person, I wish you were dead, that a car would hit you, blah, blah, blah. in love with you, but there were a lot of bad things I could have done while we were married, and I didn't do it. You know, a lot of bad things being said, and he slams his hand or fist against the wall at one point. What did you think of that scene? Because that's like the big dramatic, this is the best acting in the world scene.
Yeah, like this is what they'll, you know, show on the screen when they're at the award ceremonies. It like ebbed and flowed for me. Like there were parts where I'm like, whoa, like that was really good, that was really powerful, and there were some parts where I'm like, that was really stupid. Like we know that Nicole is close with her family, and we know that Charlie is not close with his family. But like a big portion of their fight is she's like, you're just like your father, and he's like, no, you're just like your mother. Like, and they're arguing about becoming their parents. I'm like, we literally know nothing about his family other than the fact that he doesn't get along with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, how is that supposed to be like a really strong insult, saying that he's turning into his father? Is it just, you know, so like, I'm like, why is this such a big thing? We literally know nothing about why they don't get along. I don't know. Did you catch that? Did you notice that?
I didn't notice that. I didn't catch that part. Like, I mean, I know that they said that, but I didn't feel that way about those lines. This is back to where I thought it was good acting, but it wasn't blow me away acting. There were parts that I thought were really good, acting wise, like when he does say, I wish you were dead, I wish these things happened to you. I thought that was good acting because I can understand that people will say something and then immediately regret it. Mm-hmm. That happens all the time, and in the movie, right after saying it, he kind of starts crying and breaks down. So he knows that it's something that he regrets saying. He even apologizes for it.
Say what? Go ahead.
But when he slammed his fist into the wall, I was like, okay, that's a little much. And
it seemed a lot of character for him.
Yeah, and there were some lines that he had and Nicole had where I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe my expectations were too high, but it wasn't. I didn't think it was the best acting in the world. I thought it was good. The parts of the movie that I think were really, really good are the more subtle scenes, like at the end when Charlie's reading the letter that Nicole had written, like compliments about Charlie at the beginning of the movie, but then didn't want him to see it. When he was reading that, and he reads the part that says, I'll always love him, and he starts crying, like he starts choking up, he can't read, and he starts crying. Like those subtle scenes, I think, are the better acting scenes. The loud screaming or long monologue scenes, I didn't really like those. I thought those were a little unnatural in some parts of it. I thought it was forced to an extent.
Yeah, and kind of along those lines, like you said, at the end of their fight when he's like, I wish you were dead. And then, like, she goes and consoles him. That made me so mad.
Really? I actually liked that.
Like,
because I thought she recognized that he didn't really mean that.
But, like, for me, it's like the fact that someone would even think to say that, like, would make me want to shove him into the wall. Like, yeah. I'd be like, no, screw you, I'm so done. Like, that made me so mad. I'm like, why is she consoling him?
I get what you're saying. I think the point of it was that they're both just so mad that they're not really thinking and they're just saying things, and they're both probably saying things that they regret, but he just kind of crossed the line first. Yeah. And I think she consoled him because she still loves him to an extent, and she just recognizes that it was something that he immediately regretted because he just broke down crying and started saying, I'm sorry afterwards. I'm not saying that excuses what he said, but I'm just saying I actually liked that. I think not cliche, but the thing that would happen in most movies is that she storms out and leaves. And the fact that she didn't in this made it a little different, and I can understand why. But that's just me.
I feel like it plays to that typical, I mean, even, because just before that, he's like, and this was honestly like a good line he talks about, because he slept with, I don't know, stage manager or something.
Yeah, something like
Someone who was part of his theater company, and she's like, you guys were cheating, like, I know it. And he's like, you know what? Fine. Yeah, but you should be more upset at the fact that we laughed together instead of us sleeping together. I was like, oh wow, that's actually kind of a good line.
Yeah, that's
you know, but he's like, oh, there were so many other times I could have cheated on you, and there are other things that I could have done. Oh, by the way, I wish you were dead. And she goes, oh, I'm going to console you. Like, that totally plays into the whole, like gaslighting type thing, where he's like, it's your fault that I'm like this. And that's what made me so mad. I was like, why are you trying to care for him in this moment? But I'm also, like, putting myself in those shoes. Like, if anyone ever said anything like that to me, I don't even know. I wouldn't be able to handle it. My gut reaction would not be, oh, I'm sorry that you made a mistake and you said all these things. Like, I would need someone to console me if someone said stuff like that to me. Mm-hmm. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I just felt like this whole time I sympathized with Adam Driver's character most of the time, because he's just playing from behind the whole time. Nicole clearly has the better lawyer, and Laura Dern, who, her acting is fantastic in this, but I hate her character.
See, I didn't even think her acting was that good either.
She isn't in a ton.
I mean,
which probably plays into it. Like,
I shouldn't say her acting was, like, bad, but her character was so typical. It was a very typical character. Oh, yeah, I'm the female attorney, and I support women through their divorce, and, hey, girlfriend, yeah, we're gonna work this out. And she talks in this, like, patronizing voice all the time, and I'm like, that character is so done, like, so overplayed. So I think that's why I wasn't really impressed by her acting.
Which is interesting, because from what I've read and hear, she's going to sweep every Best Supporting Actress award, and she's going to walk into an Oscar for this.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll change, but yeah, what I was saying, I just felt Nicole had the better lawyer. She had the better setup because she had family in LA. She had an established, like, house, and Henry liked being out in LA more than New York. So I think I just felt for Adam Driver, because he's clearly playing from behind the whole time, even to the point where, I mean, he has this condo that's just blank white walls, and he's trying to dress it up because they have this woman coming over to evaluate the living conditions, and
as part of the custody arrangement.
Yeah, and he's so nervous, and he's trying to make a good impression, but forcing Henry into doing things he probably doesn't want to do. And then he accidentally cuts himself with a knife. He has, like, a pocket knife on his keychain, and he goes to, like, do a joke where he pretends to, like, cut himself, but he actually cuts himself, and it's, like, it's just heartbreaking that, like, he's going through all of it. Like, that was just nuts. So I think that's, for right or wrong, kind of why I sympathize with Charlie more. Mm-hmm. But I know he's not completely innocent in this, and Nicole has valid reasons for everything she does too.
Both have their faults. They both have their issues, but they also have perspectives you can support on different pieces.
Yep. Which I did. What did you think of the line? Laura Dern had that line towards the end of the movie where she said that, men can kind of be a mess up but still come off as a good dad, but as a woman, you have to be 100%. I thought that was, like, as much as I didn't like her character, when she had that line, I was like, oh, that's very true. You just made a really good point, and I can appreciate that.
And you can kind of see where she's coming from on a lot of this stuff, is that, part of the reason why she is kind of patronizing and why she's, taking Nicole under her wing is this, oh, you poor little thing, is she knows how messed up things are. And honestly, I said at the beginning, I thought this would be, like, such an emotional story, and I'd be crying, like, over, oh, look at how beautiful their relationship used to be. This was the one scene that made me cry. Because I feel like she spoke so much truth, and there's so much, personally for me, I think there's a lot of, like, like, she brings a lot of fears in what she's saying. She's like, you know, if we're talking about parenting, like, she's like, men haven't had to be good dads since, like, the 1980s. Mm-hmm. And she's like, for women, like, our standard is the Virgin Mary. And we have to do everything perfectly. And as long as a man is kind of there, that's okay. And you go, God, that sucks so much. That's so much pressure.
Yeah, because actually this movie, so it's 2019. This is the 40-year anniversary of Kramer versus Kramer. There's another divorce-themed movie.
Love that movie.
And there's one where, kind of the points that you were talking about, there's a movie where it's about Dustin Hoffman, and just being there was good enough as a dad. And that movie is about him trying to be an actual good dad, because he has to be there for his kid the whole time. So, I will say by the end of the movie, which I like the ending of this movie because it leaves a little hope, because earlier in the movie it was kind of like, this is my day to have him, this is your day to have him, and there's no compromising on that. And at the end, they do to an extent, and they say, oh, it's your day, but that's fine, you take them. So there's some hope there. I did start to sympathize or appreciate or like Nicole's character more, because there's a moment where I think, I don't know if it's implied or if you're supposed to read into it, but I read into it this way, where Laura Dern, or Nora, goes, okay, the papers are done, they're signed. You know, she's talking to Nicole, and she goes, oh, by the way, I changed it. Instead of 50-50, you got 55%, and Charlie got 45%.
For the custody.
For custody, so you get an extra day every 2 weeks or something like that. And Nicole's like, we didn't agree to that. And Nora was like, but I didn't want him to think that he got 50-50, you know.
Yeah,
so,
I didn't want him to win.
Yeah.
I think she said that. Maybe
something along those lines. I didn't want him to feel like he won or something like that. So she goes, so I made that change at the last second. And Nicole's just sitting there going there, but that's not what I wanted. And that made me go, maybe throughout this movie, because throughout this movie, Nora's calling Charlie and making these demands, just coming off as a very cruel, lawyer. And the whole time she goes, oh, and Nicole knows I'm saying this, and she knows I'm having this conversation with you. And that part at the end made me go, maybe Nicole didn't know everything that was going on. Mm-hmm. And Nora was just kind of going out of her way to do all this. So that thought came into the back of my head. And then at the end, Nicole's the one who says, I know I have Henry tonight, but why don't you take him? So I liked how it ended, gave some hope, and I think it made me like both characters more, even though I didn't like how she'd been acting through the first third half or whatever of the movie. By the end, I think you could really appreciate or sympathize with both of the characters.
Yeah, and they've flashed forward a year, so you can kind of see like they've each had some success, and they're happy to kind of share it with one another. So he's like, hey, I have this, theater gig or whatever. And she's like, wow, that's really great. Yeah. And she's moved on to, like, she has a boyfriend and stuff. And it probably wasn't like the best interaction, but at the same time, it's like they could handle all being together. And, you're right. You see hope for them that they made it through this little piece, and they're trying to figure out where they're going from here. Yeah,
because it kind of comes full circle. Like, Nicole feels like she was forced, might be too strong of a word, but influenced into moving to New York earlier in her life to be with Charlie, and now he feels like he had to do the same thing, move out to LA, so they've each done it, and it, kind of comes full circle to a certain point. I will say with this movie, my favorite scenes in this movie were everything that involved the lawyers in the court system. I really like that this movie showed, one, how ugly this whole process can be through the legal process, because I don't think you get a ton in movies.
Assuming that most of what they're going through is pretty accurate. I mean, it felt like it was.
I'm sure it's dramatized to the extreme. Like, not everything that happened in this movie would happen to your everyday divorce, that happens. But I'm sure a lot of the aspects they show were real. Like, how Nicole visited like 12
Yeah.
lawyers in LA,
Yep.
and just the fact that she met with them, met that they can't represent Charlie. So yeah, I did appreciate the whole legal process and that aspect of it.
Yeah,
So that was different.
Exactly. It's different. It's not something that's usually the focus or brought into the story. And, Charlie keeps getting frustrated with certain things, and this is when he's still working with Alan Alda as his lawyer. His character's name is Bert. I don't know if we've said that at all. He's in the movie for a few scenes.
He's his first lawyer. He's the nicest guy in the world. And he only gives Charlie good advice.
Mm-hmm. He's very transparent with him.
Yep, and I loved his character, but he ends up switching to Jay, Ray Liotta's character, because by that point in the movie he needed a bulldog.
Yeah, he needed someone who could go toe to toe with Nora.
Yeah, like Alan Alda was this nice guy, but Jay was more the Laura Dern, where that's why they just started yelling at each other.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and I kind of one of their first mediations, Charlie and Bert have a sidebar where they're kind of talking through stuff, and Charlie's like, I'm so frustrated and this is so ridiculous and blah blah blah, and Bert goes, but this system is kind of set up to protect protect kids and protect people from like the deadbeats in the world. And he's like, you guys are not necessarily who this system is set around, and that's why some of this stuff is so frustrating, but some of this is actually to protect different people in different situations. So you could see like, God, this is so maddening, this is so frustrating, but the intent isn't always to just screw everyone. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yep. So this movie, it could quite possibly have 3 acting wins in it. I think Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, and Laura Dern are all kind of the favorites in their categories. I think Adam Driver's kind of going up against Joaquin Phoenix at this point. Scarlett Johansson is apparently going up against Renee Zellweger for Judy at this point, which we haven't seen that one. And I don't really know if there's anyone going up. I think Laura Dern's going to sweep most of the awards for Best Supporting Actress, but I guess we'll see what happens down the road. It'll get nominated for Best Picture and Writing. Noah Baumbach wrote and directed this. He'll get nominated for Writing. I don't know if it should win because, like we've said, I didn't love all the dialogue in this movie, and they apparently really were strict on keeping it to the script. I'm sure he'll get that nomination, but I don't know if he should win. I don't want to see him get nominated for Best Director, only because there were some shots that I liked in this that I mentioned, those kind of long shots where Scarlett Johansson gets up, walks through a couple rooms, comes back, sits down. But this is such a strong category this year when you got Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese, among other nominees. I don't want to see Noah get nominated because I'd rather see Greta Gerwig get nominated, and I don't want Todd Phillips in there either, so I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens down the road there.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I guess I wouldn't be surprised that, they get any of those acting nominations that you mentioned, just because I think people have been really high on their performances, and I think they'll continue to get nominated. But honestly, I would be disappointed if they won, because I've seen better roles.
I liked Adam Driver. He was my favorite. If he wins,
we've kind of been bashing on the women here, so I kind of forgot that. Yeah,
and I'm sorry.
I did like Adam Driver.
If it's come off as bashing the field, but sorry about that. It's not what I intended it to be.
No, I mean that's what I've said. Like, I was not impressed with Laura Dern. I was not impressed with Scarlett Johansson. Yeah. So it is what it is.
Yeah, but I think Adam's acting was the strongest out of the 3 of them. And I didn't love Joker, but I did think Joaquin was great in it. I would still pick maybe Adam Driver over Joaquin, but yeah, we'll see what the 3 of them are going to get nominated for sure. It will happen with Scarlett, Adam, and Laura. Scarlett might get nominated twice for this and Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, and I think, based on how some of the nominations went last year, I don't think the Academy is afraid of nominating films that come from, like, streaming studios, like non-traditional studios, so I don't think that'll...
They're not going to be able to avoid it this year, because
No.
last year it was basically just Roma, and this year they've got The Irishman, which is... You can't ignore that because it's a Martin Scorsese movie, and it's a great movie. You have Marriage Story, and then Two Popes as well as a Netflix movie. So they can't avoid it.
Yep. Sorry, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yep. So what score would you give this?
I give this one a 7.7. It was fine, but not all that impressive. I mean, it was worthwhile. If someone asked, "Hey, should I see Marriage Story?" I'd be like, "Yeah." There are a lot of really good aspects of it.
Well, it's on Netflix too. That probably helps.
Oh, yeah.
Easy to watch.
Yeah. Really, our biggest criticisms is I think the acting falls short from how other people see it. That's a big issue.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm missing something because people love their performances, like calling them the best performances in years, and I'm just not seeing that. So yeah. I don't know what I'm missing, but I would give this an 8.2.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. It was a great movie. But I don't know if my expectations were too high on it, but I didn't love it. It's not in that, I see people, it's in the 90% on Rotten Tomato. I see people giving it like 9.5 out of 10 or 95s out of 100. It's not in that level for me.
Yeah.
So it's still a good movie, and I would encourage anyone to see it, because it's easy to watch. It's on Netflix.
It's like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
A little over 2 hours. So
I still think people should see it, and I still think it's a great movie. I just didn't love it as much as I expected, or as much as I thought I would. So.
Yep, that's fair. Okay, so that's it for Marriage Story. Let's move into the Best Picture winner for 1999, which is American Beauty. So this movie was directed by Sam Mendes, who, interestingly enough, is directing 1917, which is coming out this week. This was his directorial debut as well. Really? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. Sam Mendes directed this. It stars Kevin Spacey as the lead role. He plays Lester Burnham, kind of a 40-something suburban dad with a typical kind of job. His wife, Carolyn, is played by Annette Bening. She's kind of a budding real estate agent trying to get her real estate business kind of growing. And their daughter, I don't know if she goes by Jane or Janie. I think Jane. Jane is played by Thora Birch. This movie was nominated for 8 awards at the Academy Awards that year. It won 5 of them, taking home Best Picture, Best Actor for Kevin Spacey, Best Director for Sam Mendes. So he won First Director on his first film. That's pretty amazing. It also won for Screenplay and Cinematography. The 3 that it was nominated for did not win. Annette Bening as lead actress, also film editing and original score. There's a number of other characters in here. I don't know how. I feel like everyone's like equally as important. Yeah. I was kind of looking through the cast, like, okay, who is important to include in here, who's not. But it's really kind of how these different suburban families kind of interact with each other, clash with each other. So like I said, we have the Burnhams. We've got Lester and Carolyn and their daughter Jane. And Jane's best friend is Angela, who's played by Mina Savari. She's in the American Pie movies, right? Yeah. Probably what she's most known for. Which and then we'll bring up later, oddly enough, because American Pie came out in 1999. Yeah, there you go. And then their new next-door neighbors, we have the Fitz family. And we've got Chris Cooper, who plays Colonel Fitz. He's like this strong kind of military guy. I feel like you would know him from the thing that I recognize him from the most. He plays Homer Hickham's dad in October Sky, which also came out in '99. He's an adaptation. I think he was in some of the Jason Bourne movies.
He was for sure in the first Bourne movie. If he's in any of the other ones, it's flashbacks. I don't think he's really in.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And yeah, he won an Oscar for his role in adaptation.
Yes. So yeah, he plays Colonel Fitz. His wife Barbara is played by Allison Janney. She's kind of a she's not, what's the word I'm looking for to describe her?
I don't know. She has one line maybe in the movie. Okay. She's kind of meek.
Yeah,
in it.
Yeah, that's kind of the word I was looking for.
Chris Cooper, or Colonel Fitz, Frank, I think is his first name, Frank, is the more controlling parent out of the two.
Very domineering.
So she doesn't say or do a whole lot in the movie, mainly out of intimidation of Frank. She doesn't feel like she's allowed to say a whole lot.
Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to mention her because I feel like most people know who she is. And then their son, Ricky, is played by Wes Bentley. No, he's not huge, but he was in the Hunger Games movies. He's been in a few things recently.
He's in some. You might not recognize the name, but I think most people would recognize his face.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got the Burnhams, their next door neighbor, the Fitzes, and Jane's friend Angela. Mm-hmm. I feel like those are kind of the big players. Anyone else that you think?
No, I mean, yeah, those are the big ones. That's where the story centers around those ones. There's a rival real estate agent to Carolyn in the movie that you don't see him for a little while, but you see his picture on benches and things like that, and she's always mad at him because he's kind of taking her clients because she's a struggling real estate agent. But he does pop up in the movie at one point and plays a somewhat pivotal part.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, you described it. It's kind of a suburban life movie. Some critics described it as a satire on suburban life because it opens with Kevin Spacey's character Lester. He narrates the movie, actually.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I always, for whatever reason, I like it when movies are narrated. It kind of gives you, maybe it's because I like reading comics and seeing the air bubbles, you get kind of like more to the story than just what you're seeing. Maybe that's why I like it. But anyways, he opens up with a narration, and he says it actually right up front that he dies in this movie. He says, by the end of this story, I'm going to be dead. And then it kind of goes from there. He's living, in his opinion, this boring-ish life. Wakes up next to his wife, who he feels like doesn't really love him anymore. They're arguing more than not at this point in their marriage. He's got a teenage daughter that he feels like doesn't love him. He has this boring job that he goes to all day, every day. But then they get these new neighbors that come in that you mentioned, the Fitzes. And right off the bat, you find out or know that Frank, Chris Cooper's character, is very homophobic, because they have these neighbors that are a same-sex couple. They're two guys. The actors I actually recognize. I can't remember their names right now, but they bring a housewarming gift over to the Fitzes, and Frank, right off the bat, you can tell he does not like them, doesn't like that idea, and basically tells them to go away. But their son Rick and Jane, the daughter of Lester and Carolyn, kind of hit it off. They kind of have a spark between them because they both view themselves as somewhat outsiders in the world, because everyone thinks Rick is kind of a weirdo, and Jane, she's a virgin. She's openly a virgin, and Angela kind of teases her throughout the movie about it, because Angela is like, oh yeah, I have sex all the time. I'm this cool person, and kind of teases Jane about being a virgin. But I can't remember if it was a certain thing that happened in the movie or what, but Lester basically decides he's going to turn his life around. He goes, forget about this boring job. I'm going to start saying what I want to say and doing what I want to do in life. So he blackmails his boss at his boring job into basically getting paid to work for not working. I think they say he's going to work remotely from home, but he openly said he just steals computer equipment and he's not going to work, but gets paid. Is going to get paid anyways. He becomes friends with Rick because he uses him as a weed dealer.
Yeah.
Because
he's totally going through this midlife crisis mode.
Basically what it is. He buys the car he's always wanted. He gets a part-time job at a fast food restaurant because it's low responsibility. His biggest thing right now is like, I just don't want a lot of responsibility in my life. So he starts doing that. He starts talking more openly to Carolyn about what he wants in life and how he wants to do it. And she doesn't really like that. She's kind of been the more, I wear the pants in the relationship person. But now Lester is voicing his opinion, so they're fighting a little bit more than usual. And then when they go to a basketball game that Jane is a cheerleader at and they watch her halftime performance, that's when he falls in love with Angela. So a big part of this, or plot in this movie, or a big thing in the plot of this movie is that Lester falls in love with Angela and he wants to sleep with her.
Yeah. And his kind of a theme through this movie is like the fantasies he has about Angela, and throughout each of those images, that's where like all the rose petals come from. I feel like that's a big like if you part of the imagery in this movie.
Yeah, there's rose petals all over the place, and whenever he's sees her or thinking of her, there's rose petals in the bathtub that she's in, or just in the that you're right. It's a huge theme throughout it. So he overhears Angela saying that she would probably have sex with Jane's dad if he starts working out. So that's when he starts going in the garage and starts lifting weights, and that's when he starts becoming friends with Rick, and he gets weed from him. And meanwhile, Carolyn is kind of not doing too well in the real estate market, and that's when she meets Buddy, who's that rival real estate agent that I was saying earlier, and they start having an affair. So both characters are kind of going through these different midlife crisis or different life-changing things, I guess. I don't know how to put it.
Yeah, and even the kids too. Because like you were saying, like Ricky and Jane, they don't really feel like they fit in, and Angela's like she's trying to overcompensate to fit in, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So everyone's kind of going through these different crises of no one understands me, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then towards the end of the movie, Frank is in Rick's room because he's really controlling. He even has him take. He
has him do drug tests.
I was gonna say he has him do like urine tests. So it shows that Rick has this cooler full of like clean pee that he uses for the drug test. But Frank goes into his room to kind of because he's kind of that controlling parent, so he's just going through his stuff to make sure he's not doing anything bad, quote unquote bad. And he starts watching these recordings because Rick always has this video recorder or camcorder, I guess, at the time for the late 90s.
Super cool. Super cool.
He's always got a camcorder on him, and he's always recording everything. So Frank watches some of the tapes, and the tape he watches is a recording where Rick is taping
Jane. He's like watching Jane.
That's one of them, but the one I'm thinking of, he does do that, which is kind of a creepy scene in itself, where he's just zooming in and out of Jane because like they live across the street or next to each other, so he's always zooming in and out of her bedroom window, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But no, the one he finds is Lester.
Rick, I know which one you're talking about
so
now. Yep.
Rick had been recording Lester like working out in the garage. So Frank makes the assumption that they're in a sexual relationship together. So he goes to confront Lester, and instead of beating him up, he actually kisses him. So Frank, it's that classic tale of like what you're afraid of, you kind of are. So Frank, being homophobic through this whole movie, is actually at least bisexual, and kisses Lester. And Lester, he isn't mean or rude about it, but he does kind of push him and say like, hey, I'm not into that. Like, there isn't anything wrong with it, but that's just not me. Like, I'm not into that. I'm sorry. So then Frank leaves. Buddy, that real estate agent, ends the relationship with Carolyn because he doesn't want to go through an expensive divorce. Jane and Rick are going to go run off together.
Yep.
Because they're in love and they don't like their family, so they're going to run away. And then Lester and Angela end up in the house alone at one point, or at least downstairs, and Rick and Jane are upstairs. And they are about to have sex. And then Angela mentions that she's actually a virgin. She's kind of been playing up that whole I have sex with everyone thing, and that she's actually a virgin. And that kind of stops Lester in his tracks, and he realizes, okay, this is not a good idea. I should not be doing this. And he's like, you know, he puts a blanket on her and, you know, starts comforting Angela. And then she goes to the bathroom, and Lester gets up and starts looking at all the family pictures and starts smiling at all of them and realizing that he actually does love his wife and his family. And then you see a gun kind of come up right behind him. Like, he doesn't see it, but we as the viewers do, but we don't see who's holding the gun. And then someone shoots and kills him. And then you see shots of where all the characters are while the gunshot happens, because it's kind of like, who did that? Mm-hmm. And it shows Angela in the bathroom hear the gunshot. It shows Jane and Rick upstairs when they hear it. It shows Carolyn outside the house hear it. And then it's revealed that it was Frank who did it. He been upset about being denied by Lester, and it shows him entering his garage with all these bloody clothes and a gun missing from his, he has this gun wall full of a bunch of different kinds of firearms. So it's revealed that he was the one who killed him. And then the movie really ends with a narration of Lester saying that even though he's dead, he's happy and had a good life because there's so much beauty in the world. So kind of a weird might be strong, kind of a different movie. I mean, it's just, like I said, critics have kind of described it as a satire on the suburban life. I don't know how you take that. What did you think of American Beauty?
Yeah, this was the first time I had seen it. So it was interesting to see kind of how each of the families, each of the characters dealt with their own crises and how they kind of overlapped with everyone. And I kind of liked the little twists and how everyone kind of became like close to one another, if that makes sense. Like, you know, here's these new neighbors, and the son and daughter kind of hit it off, and then the son is selling weed to Lester, and then Lester has that interaction with Frank, and so just kind of see everyone kind of crisscrossing together, I guess, was kind of interesting to see how it all came together. And like you said, at the end, we see Lester get shot, and we're not exactly sure who it is. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of guess, like, okay, maybe it's his wife because they weren't doing that well. And she had been taking, she was doing, shooting classes or something like that with her, like, with real
Buddy.
Estate guy,
yeah,
right?
So yeah, she had a gun in her car and took it out of the glove compartment before going into the house. So I think that was if you were going to lean one way or another on who was the one that killed him, I think they probably wanted you to think it was her. Mm-hmm. Because they also Jane mentions throughout the movie that she would kill her dad.
Yeah.
Or though the movie opens up with, because Ricky records everything, he's recording Jane and asks her a question like, "Do you want me to kill your dad?" And her response is, "Yeah, sure." And then then it's the title card, American Beauty, comes up. So yeah, there's a couple reasons on why you think some of these other people could kill him. Yep. Maybe Angela, because he kind of denied her. She didn't seem that upset about it, so I didn't really think she was the one to do it. But you could maybe play that aspect of it a little.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, the last line of him saying, like, he can see like the beauty and everything. It's like I don't know if I necessarily see it that way.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of things I like in this movie. I mean, just technically speaking, it won for cinematography, I think. Like, this movie is beautiful to look at and watch. The acting is phenomenal in it all around. And I really like the theme of it, of kind of that whole midlife crisis thing of, if you're unhappy in life, then do something about it.
Sure.
I always like that theming in movies and in life. I mean, if you're unhappy at your job, if you're unhappy at whatever, change it. Do something about it. Don't just sit there and take it in.
Yeah.
So I like all the themes around it. Even that ending part that you brought up, I like that he kind of realized he does love his wife and family and that there is beauty in the world. I do appreciate that aspect of it. For me, as soon as he had that fantasy about the high school girl and wants to have sex with her, I mean, that whole plot line of this movie is so not my thing and not of interest to me, and I find it disturbing to the point where, I mean, that whole plot line probably lowers this a half point to a full point to me.
Yeah, I agree. You know,
and the fact that it's kind of Kevin Spacey after the fact, too, probably isn't that great.
You know, like you said, it's that aspect of, if you're unhappy, do something to change it. In the same way that you're saying, I like that aspect, but literally all of the characters use sex as the way to change their life.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they go after. Carolyn has an affair with this other real estate guy. Lester wants to sleep with Angela. Jane is sleeping with Ricky. Frank kisses. It's all...
And Angela uses sex as a popularity thing.
Yep, exactly. That's what everyone leans on to try to, think their life is better, or they want to do that to make their life better. So, like you said, that being, the primary, impetus for everyone, for me, it's not the best.
Mm-hmm. Are we the prude podcast?
No,
I know.
No.
I was just joking. But you're right. It is a little much for everyone.
It's a very sexually charged movie.
It is, yeah. I really didn't like the 40-year-old guy going after the 18-year-old girl. And then you mentioned Carolyn having the affair with the real estate guy. I don't love it when it's just that easy. To me, it felt like it was pretty easy for her to just go with this guy to the hotel room. Whereas, Lester, he wants to have sex with his 18-year-old girl, but when he eventually does have the chance to do it, he doesn't, and then goes, I do love my wife. I mean, that's not a great reason to,
No.
But at least he didn't follow through with it and had that realization, where I thought it was pretty easy for Carolyn to just hop in the sack with Mr. Buddy, the real estate guy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this movie is pretty funny too. I don't know how much you remember.
I was say you're talking about it, being a satire, and there's some funny moments and stuff in here, and it is kind of a good reflection on some certain aspects.
He finds out about the affair. Do you remember how he finds out?
I don't.
Okay.
We watched this movie a while ago, so I don't remember all the details.
No, he finds out because they're going through the drive-thru of his fast food place to get lunch.
That's right. Yeah, he's flipping burgers at this place.
Yeah. And oh god, I can't remember the line. I might have to look it up, but yeah, he recognizes her voice over the drive-thru speaker.
Yeah.
And so he goes over and basically catches her in the act, and she plays the whole no, we were just at a seminar. And then, throughout the whole movie, Lester is this very forgettable person, and he's met multiple people multiple times, and they just never remember him. So, he says to Buddy, the real estate guy, I'm her husband. We've met before, but something tells me you're gonna remember me now. And his boss, who's a high schooler, is standing right next to him and just has a couple of lines where she's like, ooh, busted. So there's a lot of funny moments in this movie, so... overall, this is a good movie and I like it a lot. I don't like the whole him going after a high schooler thing. That really does lower it for me. Maybe not to everyone, and I'm not saying it should or shouldn't, but just to me, it lowers it for me.
Yeah, so what score did you give this one?
I gave this a 7.7.
All right.
What about you?
I gave this one 7.9.
Okay, all right. No, that's very fair. This could have easily been, I think to most people, this is like a high 8s, low 9s, and this could have easily been that for me. But yeah, there's just a couple of the plot lines that I just personally don't like. So that's what lowers it.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think we've kind of talked about the things that we liked and disliked, so those are my reasons for the 7.9 on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know 1999 was a huge year in film, so why don't you kind of talk through other nominees, other big films that came out that year?
Yeah, I'll educate everyone here on 1999.
Yes.
I'll start with the Oscars, so those main categories that we like talking about, and I kind of, for these recent ones, I'll kind of rework them a little bit if I feel like it needs to be done. Because it's weird, 1999 is considered to be one of, if not the best year in film. So you'd think for the 1999 Oscars I would want to make a bunch of changes, but looking at this, there really weren't a ton.
Yeah, so who do we have nominated for Best Supporting Actress that year?
So Best Supporting Actress was Toni Collette for The Sixth Sense, Catherine Keener being John Malkovich, Samantha Morton for Sweet and Lowdown, Chloe Sevigny for Boys Don't Cry, and then the winner was Angelina Jolie for Girl Interrupted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and in this one, this is going to affect, unfortunately, how I do this, but I haven't seen Sweet and Lowdown, so I would take out Samantha Morton, who I know has gotten a nomination before for In America, and I'm going to plug in Cameron Diaz for being John Malkovich. Have you ever seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
That's a weird one. Do you know what it's about or heard anything about
I
it?
don't, actually. Okay.
Spike Jonze directed it, and basically John Cusack plays this puppeteer, like he's an actual puppeteer.
Okay.
But he gets an office job, and at this office he finds a portal that if you go into it, then you go into the mind of John Malkovich.
Oh my god.
And because he's a puppeteer, he eventually learns how to control John Malkovich. And Cameron Diaz plays his, I think, wife. They're together. I just don't know if it's wife or fiance or whatever.
Who would you say plays that role?
Cameron Diaz.
No, the guy.
Oh,
the
John Cusack.
John Cusack. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then because Catherine Keener actually got an Oscar nomination, she plays a co-worker of John Cusack's, and he is in love with her, even though he has Cameron Diaz as a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
But both Cameron Diaz and Catherine Keener were fantastic in it. And I want to get Cameron Diaz a nomination here because she doesn't do a ton of those award-worthy movies or roles. And this is one that I think she absolutely nailed it in, so I kind of want to give her credit for it. Plus, she got nominations in every other award season for this. She got a SAG nomination, a Golden Globe nomination, but the Academy decided to not recognize her for some reason.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Who do we have nominated for Best Supporting Actor?
So in this category, this one I'm going to leave unchanged, just an FYI. Tom Cruise... Actually, no, I take that back. Right after saying it, I take it back. But anyways, the nominees are Tom Cruise for Magnolia, Michael Clark Duncan for The Green Mile, Jude Law for The Talented Mr. Ripley, Haley Joel Osment for The Sixth Sense, and then the winner was Michael Caine for Cider House Rules. And I'm not taking out or putting in any nominees, which is why I think I was saying I'm not going to make any changes.
Yeah. But you would change the winner, though, I'm guessing?
Yeah. See, okay, and to me... all the nominations and how I do this is all my preference, not like what should have happened due to critics or whatever. It's more so just my favorite.
Your personal, yeah.
But I like spreading the wealth around too, especially if they get nominated and I think it's a close race. I'm like, this person hasn't had one before, so maybe give it to them.
Yeah. Tom
Cruise has never won an Academy Award. While he may not be the greatest person in real life, I think he should have an Academy Award, and Michael Caine has been nominated numerous times and has a win already besides this movie. I would give Tom Cruise the win for Magnolia.
Interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that movie, but I thought seeing Michael Clark Duncan on there, I know that you're a big fan of The Green Mile, so I thought maybe you were going that direction.
Which that's up there. That's close, and he's great in that movie. Is John Coffey, like the drink, only not spelt the same. But but yeah, I would probably give it to Tom Cruise there.
Yeah, why don't you talk us through Best Actress next?
So we've got Annette Bening, as you mentioned, for American Beauty, Janet McTeer for Tumbleweeds, Julianne Moore for The End of the Affair, Meryl Streep for Music of the Heart, which I've never heard of or seen, by the way. That movie, Music of the Heart. Have you seen it or heard of it?
Is that the one with Hugh Grant? No.
No, this is from 99.
When did that one come out?
Are you thinking of the one where she's the opera singer?
No,
the bad opera singer?
No.
Oh, okay. That also has Hugh Grant in it, so I was confused.
No,
maybe. Let's look it up.
I don't think she would have a big enough role. I don't know if I'm thinking of the right movie or not.
Cloris Leachman is in this.
Definitely not the movie I'm thinking of. What's that Hugh Grant movie where he's like a songwriter? It's some stupid romantic comedy. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
There's a lot. He's in a lot of those romantic. I mean, About a Boy or Four Weddings and a Funeral.
It's like it's something like that though, or like Lyrics of the Heart or something stupid. It's not.
With Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I would start typing Hugh Barrymore. No, Hugh Grant or Drew Barrymore, one or the other. Yeah, I think
Music and Lyrics. Yeah. Music and Lyrics. I think that's what it's called. Definitely not something Meryl Streep was in.
So Meryl Streep wasn't even in this movie. So we went down a rabbit hole there. That's fine.
Bad. Well, I'm like, what? I do not remember her being in that movie. Plus, Music and Lyrics came out in 2007, so whatever. Not even close.
Scott Porter is in Music and Lyrics, though.
Jason Street?
Good old Jason Street, yep. All right.
Okay.
But then back to these. So yeah, Annette Bening, Janet McTeer, Julianne Moore, Meryl Streep. Then the winner was Hilary Swank for Boys Don't Cry. This one, I don't have any changes at all. I honestly haven't seen a lot of these movies. I've seen Boys Don't Cry and American Beauty. I haven't seen the other ones, and looking at the other nominations for other award ceremonies, everyone was pretty clear on these women. So I just don't have any changes, and that's just due to I haven't seen a lot of them. And also, I loved Hilary Swank in Boys Don't Cry.
I was going to ask, I've never seen that movie. Do you think I would like it?
Yes, I do. It can get brutal at points, but
I like Hilary Swank, so...
This is one of the first movies, maybe not, but one of the first ones that I've seen or can remember, where a movie deals with transgender. Because she plays a woman who then wants to be a man. So I can't remember what her original birth name is, but then she starts going by Brandon Tina. So she starts identifying as a man. Chloe, who I mentioned, has got an Oscar nomination for this movie too. Kind of becomes his girlfriend in this movie, but Brandon's character is concealing the fact that she's actually a woman dressed as a man throughout the whole movie. So that's what it's about.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put it on my list. What about Best Actor nominations for 99?
Yep. So Russell Crowe got nominated. This was his first nomination for The Insider, which is a fantastic movie and everyone should go see.
What's that one about?
That is... I feel like we've started this movie 5 times, but maybe you've fallen asleep 5 out of 5 times on this one.
Very possible.
He plays Jeffrey Wygant, who worked at a cigarette company, and then Al Pacino's in it as a 60 Minutes producer, and is trying to get an interview with him and blow up that the cigarette company or industries have known that tobacco is bad for you and addictive. So really, really good movie. Richard Farnsworth was nominated for The Straight Story. Sean Penn for Sweet and Lowdown. Denzel Washington for The Hurricane. And then the winner was Kevin Spacey for American Beauty. And this one, a couple changes. Again, I've never seen Sweet and Lowdown, but Sean Penn's won 2 Oscars and nominated countless other times. So I'm taking him out. and I'm putting in a person who's never been nominated for Academy Award. He should have been nominated at least twice, and one of the other times I brought up in our 1998 episode, Jim Carrey has never been nominated, should have been nominated, and could have won for The Truman Show. The fact that they didn't even nominate him is just mind-blowing to me. And then this movie is Man on the Moon. He won a Golden Globe for it. He was nominated for all the other award ceremonies, and after he didn't get a nomination for this, I felt like Jim Carrey just went, okay, the Academy doesn't like me. Well, whatever, screw you guys. I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what they have against him. We know the Academy doesn't really like comedies that much, like his kind of comedy, slapstick, straight comedies. Basically, if you want a comedy to get nominated for Best Picture, it needs to be a
Shakespeare in
drama.
Love.
Yeah, a drama that has comedic levels
Aspects,
to it. Yeah. So I would change that. I had to find a way to get Jim Carrey nominated here, and it was between Sean Penn and Richard Farnsworth, because I've never seen those two movies that they got nominated for. But Richard Farnsworth is his only nomination from what I can tell, so okay, we'll let him keep that, and I'm taking Sean Penn out. And the other thing that's kind of up for debate here is who should have won. A lot of people felt like Denzel Washington should have won for The Hurricane, and a lot of people say that the reason he won for Training Day 2 years later is because he didn't win for The Hurricane. And I loved Russell Crowe in The Insider. So for me, it's between one of those two. Yeah, I don't know who I would. It's kind of a coin toss to me.
Yeah, it seems like a strong category.
Yeah, I think if either of them would have won, that's fine. My big gripe was just trying to get Jim Carrey in for an Oscar nomination, because I still can't believe that didn't happen.
Yeah. Did you want to talk through the best directors as well?
Sure. Spike Jonze was nominated for Being John Malkovich, which we brought up a little bit already. Lasse Hallström for the Cider House Rules, Michael Mann for The Insider, M. Night Shyamalan for The Sixth Sense, and then the winner was Sam Mendes for American Beauty, which was his directorial debut, which he probably deserved it. The movie is beautifully shot, even though it isn't my favorite Best Picture winner of all time. The only gripe I have here is I think Frank Darabont should have been nominated for The Green Mile. And he was up for all the director guilds and the other ceremonies too, to kind of help validate my reasoning here. But while I like Cider House Rules, I don't think it was anything too crazy, especially from a directorial standpoint. So I would probably take Hellstrom out and put in Frank Darabont, because I think what he did with Green Mile that movie just all around is phenomenal.
What is some other stuff that Frank Darabont has done? Because the name is familiar.
Shawshank.
Oh, okay.
Another Stephen King adaptation. He did The Mist too.
Prison Story.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
He was the one who kind of got Walking Dead onto AMC too.
That's what I thought.
I don't know what exactly happened there, but I know after the first season or one of the first seasons, he left The Walking Dead, and there's been some kind of feud going on there a little bit. But he did Shawshank Redemption, which is a big one.
Yeah. Cool. And we want to talk about the Best Picture nominees that year too?
Yep. So last one, Cider House Rules nominated, Green Mile, The Insider, The Sixth Sense, and American Beauty. I wouldn't take out and put in anything. I would leave those 5 there. And then just to me, since this is my personal list or movies that I like, my favorite out of these would have either been The Green Mile or The Insider.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably lean towards The Green Mile. I just like the themes going on. Both Green Mile and American Beauty, to me, have good themes throughout it, like the midlife crisis thing, where if you're not happy in your life, change it, do something about it in American Beauty. And also in Green Mile, it's kind of just these characters that have to just believe in miracles. There isn't always an answer to anything. Michael Clarke Duncan's character is a miracle and can perform miracles. That's just what he does, and just kind of accept that. So both movies have good themes, but I really love The Green Mile. And I like The Insider because I just like that whole kind of, it's one of those courtroom, or it's a movie where there's some investigative aspects to it with the 60 Minutes part of it, and did the tobacco companies know or not know that their product was addictive and bad for their consumers. So I like that whole aspect of it too.
Yeah. Did Green Mile get nominated for writing at all? Like an adapted screenplay?
Let's see. It's a good question. I have it up right here. Yes. Frank Darabont got nominated for writing.
Nice. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Which there were a couple. This was I think a strong year for adapted writing because you got Cider House Rules, which won, Election, Green Mile, Insider, and Talented Mr. Ripley. But some movies that were like Fight Club was based off a book.
Mm-hmm.
And Office Space I thought was kind of a good screenplay. Good script.
Yeah.
And that's adapted off of Milton. So it would have had to be adapted.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but yeah, that's what I got for the Academy Awards for that year. But just going along with 1999, it is considered one of, if not the best year in movie history. Some other movies that came out that year.
Well, and it seems like, too, if I can interject, like, a lot of great movies across a lot of different genres.
Yeah. Just across the board. You're absolutely right.
So, yeah, why don't you give us, like, a few of the big ones?
Yeah, it's crazy. I have kind of a long list here. Maybe I'll skim through it. Don't have to go through the whole thing because I started just typing movies that I knew came out in 99, and then when I started looking into it more, I'm like, oh, God, that one?
Forgot about that one.
Forgot
about that one. It's because Y2K was coming. People thought the world was going to end, right?
Yeah, that must have been it. But no, I there's a couple books out there about why 1999 was so good. And I was listening to an interview where one of those writers was doing an interview, and he talked about how a lot of the studios were losing money or they were down. So they kind of gave free rein to some of these directors to do what they want and had less control over it, which seems to be the winning formula because that's what happened in the 70s as well. Studios weren't doing that great, and then you had these great young directors like Spielberg, Scorsese, Coppola, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, it seems like they gave them more
freedom. Yeah, exactly. And
they had nothing to lose, so why not take a chance on some of these new people?
Exactly, and they blew up, and that's similar to here. With Sam Mendes, I mean, this was his directorial debut, and he went on to make some of my favorite movies, like Road to Perdition. I love. We're going to go see 1917. That movie is apparently phenomenal. But Fight Club came out in 1999. This wasn't Dave Fincher's first movies or anything like that, but he was a pretty well-established director at the time. But this movie was a box office bomb initially, but it's gotten a cult following to this point where I don't even want to say cult following. I think at this point it's just considered a fantastic movie. But it's a really dark, gritty, trippy movie on such a wild topic that, to me, you couldn't predict what was going to happen in this movie. Magnolia came out in 1999. We kind of touched on the Oscar section.
Yeah, with Tom Cruise, right?
Yep, but this is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and this is one of those more younger directors. He had done Boogie Nights a couple of years earlier, but he had a little more freedom on this movie, and he'd go on to do like There Will Be Blood is one of his more recent ones, and Phantom Thread.
Oh, okay.
So he's a good director now, but Magnolia...
Both of those nominated for Best Picture?
Yeah, Phantom Thread and There Will Be Blood. Yep, 100%. So that came out. The Matrix came out in 1999. I mean, this movie, self-explanatory, but redefined visual effects.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, one of the most interesting and creative stories or scripts for like a sci-fi movie. I mean, the computers in the real world are using the world around us as like a way to just keep us entertained while they use us as batteries. Like, it was insane. Like, it's a story that doesn't make complete sense, but when you watch the movie, it's just so intriguing. And
people always love like The Chosen One.
Yeah, that's always a good theme.
Yep.
And it solidified Keanu Reeves to an extent. He had done movies earlier like Bill and Ted, but this is what really put Keanu on the map. And now they're doing a fourth Matrix movie, which is being on the released on the same day as John Wick 4. So that'll be interesting. 1999 was also the year Star Wars returned to theaters.
Phantom Menace.
Yes, and while that movie might not have been the best movie or as good as people would have hoped it to be, it was still a huge phenomenon. It was number one at the box office that year. And it was, I remember people sleeping in tents in line at the movie theater getting ready to see this movie. So that was huge.
Well, yeah, and it was new films for a new generation.
Yeah.
Star Wars fans, so. Yep.
Stanley Kubrick made his last movie in 1999 in Eyes Wide Shut, another Tom Cruise movie. I mentioned it earlier, but Office Space came out. Some other comedies were American Pie, which we brought up with Mina Savari, which, that's one of the more popular comedic franchises and ever, really. Big Daddy came out in 1999. Austin Powers 2 came out. Analyze This came out. The Blair Witch Project came out, which is the biggest budget to what it grossed difference. I think it cost $60,000 to make, and it made $248 million.
It cost $60,000 to make that movie?
Yeah, it was just like a homemade project.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I had I knew it was low budget, but that's insane. Yeah, I remember how absolutely huge that movie was.
Yeah, nuts. We brought it up in the Oscars, but The Sixth Sense came out. Introduction to M. Night Shyamalan. This was one of the few horror movies. We brought it up in a podcast a couple episodes ago when we brought up horror movies don't really get noticed at the Academy too much. This is one that did. It was able to. That's how good it was. And I think it came out at the right time where it was tough to get it spoiled, where social media wasn't really going off, and the internet was up but not quite to the extent now, so it was tough to get the ending spoiled to you unless you watched other movies.
Tell us how you had The Sixth Sense spoiled.
Yeah, because I did. Unfortunately, the ending was spoiled. It was a movie, so obviously it came out in 1999. We'd have to look and see what year this movie came out, but 50 First Dates had just came out, the movie with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. And I went to Blockbuster or Mr. Movies or whatever it was to go rent
50
First Dates, and I'm walking around and I'm like, oh, Sixth Sense, I should get that too and finally watch it. And that fateful night I made a decision that would alter my life forever. Which one should I watch first? And I decided to watch 50 First Dates before The Sixth Sense. And if you've never seen either of them, don't do that, because they give away the ending. They spoil the ending to The Sixth Sense in the movie 50 First Dates. I was sitting there watching this movie, and they spoil the ending to The Sixth Sense, and I'm holding it in my hand going, what the fuck? Really? It's years later. I don't know what year 50 First Dates came out, but it's, at least 5-6 years later. And I had it spoiled right there when I had it in my hand where I could have watched it.
So close.
Which I think adds to how good that movie is. So when I did watch The Sixth Sense, I still thought it was really good and deserving of everything it got, but probably not as good as if it wouldn't have been ruined for me. So that's fun.
That's too bad.
Yeah. We mentioned, kind of brought up cult classic with Fight Club, but another one, Galaxy Quest, came out in 1999. This is a huge cult following now. Justin Long still says this is the movie he gets talked to the most about than any other. There's people that say that this is the best Star Trek movie ever made to this day still. But Toy Story 2 won the Golden Globe for Best Picture, Musical or Comedy, and in my opinion wasn't even the best animated movie that year. You've got animated movies like Tarzan and Pokemon, the first movie, came out in 1999, but Iron Giant came out in 1999, and that is one of the best animated movies that I think's ever been made. Vin Diesel, one of his best roles.
Yeah.
That's the Iron Giant. Anyways, I've got a long list here. I don't need to talk about all of them, but Any Given Sunday, Mystery Alaska. Martin Scorsese released a movie with Nick Cage, Bringing Out the Dead. The Mummy. October Sky, which is one you brought up. But I guess even though this is considered one of the best years ever made, they can still come out with a dud because Baby Geniuses came out this year too. So.
Gosh. Perfect. We want to get into the quiz.
We want to rank our best picture
winners? Yeah, let's do that. Do we want to go back and forth?
Yeah.
10, 9, 8.
You can start. We'll start at 10 and go up to 1.
Okay.
You go first.
So, of the 10 best picture winners that we have watched so far, number 10 for me is Platoon.
Yeah, I think it's self-explanatory.
Yep. I didn't like it. It's not that it was poorly made. Like, it won Best Picture. I'm never going to say Best Picture winner is a terrible movie, but it's just not my thing.
At my number 10, I've got Chariots of Fire.
And that's my number 9.
Yeah, it was just, watching it, it was just boring. It was kind of boring to me. It was almost so unengaging that's why it was hard to follow the plot line, because I just was not engaged with that movie. I didn't follow the dialogue and the plot that much, even though it isn't really that complicated of a plot. Mm-hmm. Great music, though.
Yeah, so that was my number 9. What do you have for number 9?
I've got American Beauty.
Okay.
Again, it's not a bad movie. It's just tough to rank a bunch of good movies, so something's going to have to be at the bottom. But just some of the plot lines in it, I wasn't a fan of that lowered it to me. So I don't even know if we did give our scores for it. Yeah, so it's a 7.7 for me, which I know I said earlier, but it's number 9 for me.
Yeah. My number 8 is The Bridge on the River Kwai. The ending kind of moved it up a little bit for me, but not my favorite.
Okay, all right. War movies.
Yep.
I know they're not your favorite.
It's not my thing.
They are. I'm a fan of them, so we have opposite biases towards them. My number 8, Shakespeare in Love. This and American Beauty are kind of close in score for me, but I give Shakespeare in Love the tiebreaker or what have you, because I think it's more rewatchable and I enjoy watching it more than I do watching American Beauty.
My number 7 is Braveheart. Kind of similar to Platoon. It's, just not my type of movie.
Yeah. No, I get it.
There's some inspiring scenes which are really, really nice, but, a little too long.
Okay, that's fair. I've got 7 for me is No Country for Old Men. I love the first 2/3 or half of this movie is something that's in the 9s, but then I just don't like the ending, the back third of it that much, that it just lowers it for me. Again, the acting is phenomenal in it. Javier Bardem is perfect as Anton Chigurh, one of the great villains in movies. So a lot of stuff I like about the movie, but I gotta put it in at number 7.
Number 6 for me is A Beautiful Mind.
That is also my number 6. We have the same one there. It's a movie I love, but there's just some flaws with it, and there's just movies I like more than it, right?
Exactly. So that brings me to this week's film. My number 5 is American Beauty.
All right. Yeah, got that a little higher than I do, but I completely understand why.
Mm-hmm.
My number 5 is Bridge on the River Kwai, which I know you mentioned it's a little lower for you, but I love a good war movie, as I've said multiple times, but even though, for whatever reason, these movies in the 50s, 60s, you got to pay attention to the plot more. I like a lot of the things that happen in this movie. I like the relationship with Sesaway's character and Alec Guinness's character in the movie. William Holden is a nice comedic relief level to it.
Yep.
The ending, as you brought up, was really intense and just, tense in general, just with the water level going down and that whole aspect of it. I really like this movie.
Yeah. Number 4 for me is Ben-Hur. Just a great epic film.
No, yeah, totally. I'll get into it on mine because I haven't said it yet.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me is Braveheart. A lot of great action scenes. This is a movie that probably could have been cut down a little bit, though. It is on the longer side of things when I think there were parts of it that could have gotten yanked out. Parts I love about it, parts I don't love about it, like the love interest in it after his wife gets killed, I didn't think was completely necessary, but still overall a really great movie.
Number 3 on my list is No Country for Old Men. I know this was lower for you, but I think it was just such a it was just a really compelling story.
Yeah, no, like I said, I loved the story. I just when he goes to Mexico, like after the shootout with Anton, when Josh Brolin goes to Mexico, it just slows down to me. Like it almost comes to a complete stop. They have this intense cat versus cat mouse story going on, and then he goes to Mexico, and I feel like it comes to a complete stop. That's just why I had to lower it. But yeah, the first half of it, amazing.
Yeah, and I think for me the first half, first 2/3 of it outweighs, some of the other movies that I put lower than it.
And that's fine. That's completely understandable. My number 3 is Platoon. I think this is one of the best war movies ever made, and top 1 or 2 Vietnam War movies ever made. One of the most realistic looks at it. Not that I would personally know, but from what just watching it, I can just tell that Oliver Stone, this was like his life, and he wanted to put it on film. I kind of like that it shows the internal struggles of this platoon versus them just fighting the enemy. I find that a lot more interesting than just a typical war movie where it's us against them. So yeah, I got Platoon at number 3.
My number 2 is Shakespeare in Love. I just think it was a super fun, enjoyable movie. So. It's a nice reprieve from all the bloody, gory, violent war movies that we watch.
Yes, very true. My number 2 is Ben-Hur. You brought it up. I love epic movies, these huge, like, event-level movies where you have an intermission in the middle. And this is one of the best ones out there. Even though it's 3.5 hours long, I don't know, I don't always feel like it is when I watch it, so. Yeah,
I agree. Also, I know we will both agree on number 1. Mm-hmm. We both have The Sting.
It is, I love that movie. I know, like, my score might be higher than yours, but we both have it as number 1. The movie's so much fun. It's funny and tense, and it has a couple plot twists in it that maybe you see coming, maybe not, whatever. But yeah, it's just a really fun movie to watch.
Great movie, great music. It's just, it's all around. It's a good time.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Perfect. So there we go. That's our 10-1 rankings for all the Best Picture winners we have watched and discussed so far.
Yep. All right, on to the Christmas Vacation quiz here. So yeah, I got a number of questions here for you.
Okay. I hope I'm ready. I did not watch it this Thanksgiving. I tried to fit it in, just didn't happen. So I'm hoping the many, many times I've watched it before will be good enough.
All right, here we go. What Christmas carol are Clark and Ellen singing at the beginning of the film as they head to the woods to cut down a tree?
Deck the halls with boughs of holly. Fa la 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 la.
Yep.
Sing it, Russ.
Yep, that is correct.
Oh, that's such a great opening scene. It's just, it's so funny.
All right. Which sports team cap does Clark wear at various points throughout the film?
Chicago Bears.
Yeah, that one was going to be an easy one. Yeah. What item does Clark forget to bring on the tree hunting expedition?
A saw. He does not bring a saw to cut down the tree.
So what do they do instead?
They just very unrealistic. They just rip it out by its roots.
I was saying, wouldn't ripping it out by its roots be harder than cutting it down?
Oh my god. Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. What does Clark plan to do with his Christmas bonus?
Put in a swimming pool. And then invite the whole family out there, if there's enough left over. Do I get extra credit for that?
No, you do not, but that was correct. What does Clark receive instead of money for a Christmas bonus?
A monthly subscription, or an annual subscription to the Jelly of the Month Club.
Yep, year-long subscription to Jelly of the Month Club. Yep. Oh, yeah, that seems like a winner.
Frank Shirley, his boss, giving him Jelly subscription.
What does Aunt Bethany recite when the others ask her to say grace during the dinner table?
She does the Pledge of Allegiance.
And what does Cousin Eddie do?
He stands up, Dan puts his hand over his heart,
Yeah.
gives a little salute.
That wasn't one of the questions, but...
Oh, Aunt Bethany.
How many lights does Clark use on the house?
Ooh.
This is one where I was... It wouldn't be easy.
100,000 Italian twinkle lights?
That is not what this says.
Uh,
This says 25,000.
25,000. Okay. One wrong.
One so far? One? You're 6 out of 7. What kind of vehicle does Uncle Eddie drive?
Oh, that there Clark is an RV.
Yep, Harvey. What classic holiday movie is Clark's son Rusty watching on television as the arguing in-laws arrive?
I'm pretty sure it's... Oh, now I can't think of what it's called. I can
Say
picture
this
it.
one,
Jimmy Stewart.
I would bring it up every year because you hadn't seen it until...
I know. It's a Wonderful Life.
Yep. What does Clark do to amuse himself while he's stuck in the attic?
He watches old home movies.
Yep. Dressed up.
Yeah, dressed up in all the, like, old clothes and stuff in the attic, yeah.
What does Clark wear on his head when using his chainsaw for the first time?
He wears like, those old hockey masks, like, from Jason.
Yeah. I would have accepted a Jason mask or a hockey mask because they're one and the same.
Yeah.
What year was Christmas Vacation released?
Ooh. I think it's 88 or 89. I'm going to say 89.
Yep.
Ah! Yay.
Usually when you have to guess between 2 years,
Oh,
you usually get it wrong.
I'm always off by one. Yeah, 89.
What type of animal is in the Christmas tree?
A squirrel.
Yep. What is the name of Cousin Eddie's dog?
Snot.
Yeah, it's not. Because he has like a condition.
Oh, yeah, he just, like, sneezes and gets phlegm everywhere. Yep. It's gross.
What are the first names of Clark's neighbors?
Clark's neighbors. Ooh, Todd and Margot.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, Margot.
Why is the carpet all wet, Todd? I don't know, Margot.
Who accidentally traps Clark in the attic?
His mother-in-law. I don't know what her name is.
Yeah, it says Ellen's mother, Frances.
Yeah, Frances. The mom from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah, Doris Roberts, I think, is her name. When Clark finds himself on a runaway sled, what store is he at when the sled eventually stops?
I think it's Walmart.
Yep, Walmart. What corrected Eddie's daughter's crossed eyes?
Oh, gosh. I think he says, falls down a well, eyes get crossed. Kicked by a mule, eyes go back?
Yeah, she got kicked by a mule.
I don't know.
Oh my god. Oh god. What song does the family sing together at the end of the movie?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. He sings Joy to the World when he's lighting the trees. I don't remember.
Is that your final answer? You give up?
No, let me think.
Okay.
I want to say... Do they sing O Come All Ye Faithful? I feel like that's in some part of the movie, but I don't know if that's the end. That's what I'm going to go with, though.
This says Star Spangled Banner.
That's right. That's right, because then Aunt Bethany says, play ball! Damn it. Okay, Star Spangled Banner. Shoot.
Last question. What is the last line of the movie?
So I think Aunt Bethany says, play ball, and then I think Clark says, I did it?
Yep, I did it.
Woo! Just like the quiz. I did it.
Good job.
That was pretty good.
It was, what? But you only got 2 wrong?
Yeah.
Nice. Good job.
Thank you.
Now, if those are the only 2 questions that I edit into this, then people are going to think you got 0 out of 2.
You're terrible. Please don't do that. All right. Beautiful. I like you can quiz me too. It's
All right,
fun.
yeah,
It's
there
fun
we
stuff.
go. We'll try to do that a little bit more.
Yeah, so thanks, Mom and Dad, for the quiz. That was fun.
Yep. Is there anything else you have before we close out the pod?
Nothing else to add. What do we have next week?
We're going to talk about Star Wars, Rise of the Skywalker, which we went and saw, along with the Best Picture winner from 1990. Do you remember what it is?
Dances with Wolves.
Yep.
Love that movie. Love, love, love that movie. That'll be fun.
All right, there we go. So yeah, now you get a quick early look at what Haley thought of Dances with Wolves.
Spoiler alert, I liked it.
Yep, so that's all we got for you today. Have a happy holidays, time off from work if you have any. Hopefully you do. And from the Oscar Reel Movie Podcast, this has been Matt and Haley.
Go see a movie this week.